The group was now running through the city as fast as they could. Everything was eerily quiet after the explosions and the forest had given way to the clearing of the city. No one had said anything since they left the site where Cheong-san fell, and the group had to drag Shenjo and Na-Yeon away from the site, mostly because they weren't sure if they would be more bombing or zombies around. It was odd, to say the least, that they hadn't seen one zombie at all, because all of them couldn't have died in the blast, right? They weren't that lucky. As they ran through the city streets, ducking through alleyways and wide empty streets, Na-Yeon saw something that caused her to stop in her tracks. The rest of the group continued on for a while till they couldn't hear footsteps behind them and turned around. Shenjo had come to a stop behind Na-Yeon after having chosen to run behind the girl to watch out for her. Some of the guys were watching the rear of the group stopped as well, trying to see why they had stopped running. Cheong-san's chicken, Na-Yeon said, looking at the store sadly. She could feel her tears running as she looked over the store. Na-Yeon and the small group flinched when a zombie banged up against the door inside the store. They all stood there staring at it because it looked like someone from their school. The rest of the group realized that they hadn't come and stopped to double back. Everyone then took a moment to look at the store and the zombie on the inside. Shenjo walked up behind Na-Yeon before slowly reaching for her arm. Na-Yeon, she said, causing the girl to flinch for a moment before she turned around. We need to go now. We don't know if there are still zombies here or if they're going to bomb the city again. Na-Yeon looked back over her shoulder at the store before quickly swiping at the tears on her face and looking back at Shenjo with a nod. Everyone in the group took one last glancing nod at the store before they all engaged in the run again. They had a vague idea to head for the city limits or just to find a way out of the city. They were putting all their cards into this plan because they knew if they got caught out here it would be hard to survive. Stop! Na-Yeon said, holding up her hand in a fist as the group came to a halt. They were now in some densely packed residential and commercial district. There was now a lot of smoke covering most of the area. They could barely see, and from the smell that they got they knew what was burned. The smoke was so thick obscuring the area and they could barely see down the next street. Shenjo held her weapon tightly in her hand and nodded for Na-Yeon to do the same. They're coming, Na-Yeon said after pausing for a moment, and the group immediately created a circle as they tried to cover any direction the zombies could be coming from. There's too many, we have to go, Na-Yeon said as she turned to the group before running down an alleyway. The group didn't waste any time as they ran after her. No one could see the zombies or even hear them, but they knew that they were coming and they didn't want to be caught. They were ducking and diving through alleys as fast as they could, trying to create as much distance as they could. Na-Yeon ran ahead of the group. Looks like we have to fight, she said as a group of zombies burst through the crowd and she immediately attacked them, cracking their skulls and snapping their necks with frightening ease that made some of the group uneasy as they saw her. They quickly snapped out of it and also attacked the zombies that were coming from the smoke. Na-Yeon was standing clutching her weapon nervously, her eyes frantically looking around as the group fought the zombies. One locked eyes with her and charged, and time seemed to slow down. She could swear she heard Cheong-san telling her to fight as she pulled back and gave a massive swing whilst jumping out of the way. Na-Yeon and Shenjo had been ready to jump in when they saw a zombie charging at Na-Yeon and were ready to step in, but were surprised when the normally meek girl swung her weapon with as much ferocity as she could muster. The zombie fell to the ground, and before it could get back up, Na-Yeon was already taking another swing. The voices of Cheong-san encouraged her but only further enraged her because she had lost him to these monsters. Many more zombies burst through the smoke as the group became to fight them. The number was still manageable, and with Na-Yeon on their side, it was slightly easier to fight. The rest of the group fought the other zombies and she kept on beating this one, her face a mask of anger and pain. Na-Yeon wasn't sure when the zombies stopped moving because she couldn't see clearly anymore with her tears blurring her vision till she felt a touch on her shoulder that had her whirling around ready to fight. It was Shenjo looking at her worriedly. The two were brought out of their stare by more zombies that they started to fight immediately, teaming up to watch each other's back as they swung at the zombies that reached out. Na-Yeon and Shenjo heard a scream and turned to see a zombie biting into Woo-jin's calf, causing him to lose his footing. They wanted to help but they were pinned down and they could hear his sister scream. The zombie quickly tackled Woo-jin, biting into his neck as he continued to scream. Hara finally managed to get a shot into the zombie's head, dropping it, but her brother had already stopped moving as blood still gushed out of his neck. Hara wanted to approach but Mi-jin held her back. "Get off, I need to help my brother." She struggled against the girl whilst in the background, Namra was finishing off a zombie. Namra got up, her breathing ragged as she continued to huff and puff. The hunger was growing and she knew sooner rather than later that she was going to lose control. She saw the group now waiting for a moment, all of them looking at Woo-jin's body and not knowing what to do, but she knew what they had to do before someone got hurt. Namra walked up quickly as Woo-jin's body twitched and looked up before raising quickly and charging at the group. She got there fast, grabbing the zombie's shirt and pulling its attention toward her before she grabbed the sides of its head and twisted its neck. The zombie crumbled to the ground and she went to quickly crush the head to make sure it was really dead. Namra turned around and she was surprised when she just saw the group staring back at her, shocked. "You monster, how dare you!" Hara shouted as she walked up and slapped Namra across the face. "You're just like them. You don't feel anything when you kill your OWN people, killing my brother." Mi-jin and Soo-hyuk rushed to break the two apart before Hara could take another swing and maybe even use her weapon. Soo-hyuk went to try and calm Namra but she pushed him away with her enhanced strength, sending him flying some distance. She started at him hungry, barely holding on to the last bit of herself as she wanted nothing more than to eat him. Everyone in the group looked at her scared as she was growling a bit and they took a step back. Namra seemed to come to her senses as she saw the accusatory looks from her group, all the fearful glances, and the way they tightened their grip on their weapons. She took a small step back before she turned and ran. Namra and Shenjo shouted as Soo-hyuk ran past her into the barely visible smoke. She took off after him and soon the rest of their group were following him except Isu and what remained of the group they found at the auditorium. They ran for a while, they couldn't even see the sight of her but they kept running and searching for her for a while, till Soo-hyuk at the head of the group suddenly stopped, causing the others to crash into him. Everyone in the group moved to see the holdup and were shocked when they saw Namra holding down a person that weakly struggled as she ate him. Namra and Shenjo said weakly and the girl looked up at the group, her mouth covered in blood and guts. She only looked at them before she perked up. "You should go, there's still some around here, and they're coming." Namra got up and saw the group take a subtle step back. She knew she had to go now, she couldn't be around them, she was too dangerous. Soo-hyuk tried to move toward her but saw a zombie burst out of the smoke and charge at him. The group immediately began fighting the zombies but they were too many and with a lot of hesitation they started back off. Namra got up, throwing some of them that were close to capturing them. "Go now!" She screamed and they could hear the footfalls of more zombies and knew they had to go but they weren't going to give up on her. She ran into the smoke and they followed, fighting off some zombies, but as they looked across each street they couldn't see her anymore and the footfalls of more zombies were growing. "We have to go," Shenjo said, holding on to Soo-hyuk's arm. He wanted to break her grip and go searching but he looked back at the rest of the group. All of them were still following him into danger. He didn't want to be the reason that they died, so reluctantly he said, "Let's go." He gave one last look over his shoulder into the smoke before he turned with the group and they began running. It didn't take too long to join up with the rest of the group, wordless, a tension now between them as they continued on the way outside the city. They ran for a while till they could see a blockade up ahead, military trucks and soldiers standing. A bullet whizzed past and all of them immediately ducked. Don't shoot, we are human, we are human. Everyone threw their hands up, stopping their sprint towards the barricade. The soldiers moved around, coming towards them, looking around frantically for other zombies they could guess. They could see the soldiers at the wall, all aiming guns at them. Get down now, I said, get down, the soldiers shouted with guns pointed at them, as they went to their knees. As the group were searched while restrained, Na-Yeon just hoped that they had made it this time.